This is the Cleanweb Conversations podcast, growing the global Cleanweb community. Here is your host, Woon Tan.
So, welcome to another episode of the Cleanweb Conversations channel. And my name is Woon Tan, I'm your host. If you're new to this channel, welcome to the show. We are all about growing the global Cleanweb community, where we shine light on the innovations that are taking place in the Cleanweb movement. So, welcome. And I'm really glad that we have Bruno from EnergyDeck today. You've got 15 years of experience as an enterprise solutions architect. You have been implementing large-scale distributed IT solutions, and you're an expert in all things agile and accessibility. That's according to your LinkedIn profile.
Is it? Yes. So basically, I am the CTO. So
yes, you're the CTO of EnergyDeck, and EnergyDeck is a London-based Cleanweb company. You're a software as a service company that provides an energy management community platform for the built environment. And you've actually been you've been founded in August 2012, and you've actually been awarded quite a number of awards as well. And so yeah, let's jump straight into it. What is EnergyDeck?
So as you said, EnergyDeck is an online energy management platform for the built environment. So it's all about gathering a lot of metadata. So whether it's your gas meter, electricity meter, all that sort of things. But we are slowly turning into the IoT platform for the built environment, because we now gather data for all sorts of things, including temperature, humidity, CO2. And the idea is to present this information to the users so that they can understand their energy use and manage their energy better. Hopefully reduce it. So that's the core of what EnergyDeck is today. And one small correction on the dates you've got. The company was actually funded in October 2011.
Ah, okay. Because I think I got that from your LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, August 2012 is when I joined.
Ah, okay. How did you get involved, and how did you met Benjamin, your founder?
Right, so the story of EnergyDeck. Benjamin Kott, who's the CEO and founder of the company, used to be the green operations manager for Google for Europe. So basically his responsibility was to manage the energy and the sustainability of all the buildings that Google operated in Europe. Mm-hmm. And what he discovered very quickly is that he had no software on the market that would actually do what he wanted to do. So he ended up using Excel, or rather Google Sheets, to manage his data. And that was at the time when Google was coming up with this idea of the smart meters that you could add to your iGoogle page, that eventually got canned the day he left the company, actually, but that's got nothing to do with it. So Benjamin left Google and decided to build the platform he wished he had when he was at Google, and that's when it all started.
Right.
So what happened next is that he started with the first prototype, then found a development team. Well, there were a few stories behind this, but eventually found a development team based in Kiev in Ukraine, and the first version of the platform went live in April 2012. And at some point he discovered that he was spending way too much time on the technology and way not enough time on actually selling the product. So he started looking for a CTO, and conversely, completely in a completely unrelated way, I was at the time working as a contractor for Lloyds Banking Group. Mm-hmm. So if you ever have a mortgage with Lloyds Bank and you can see it on your online banking, you can blame me for the way it looks. Basically, I was working for Lloyds, and I wanted to move from Lloyds because I had been working as a contractor for large organizations for quite a long time, and as I worked in a startup 10 years ago in the banking sector, I wanted to go back to a startup environment. So I started thinking, okay, well, what can I do? And at the same time, I had plans in the summer to be a mentor for Young Rewired State. So if you don't know Young Rewired State, it's a non-profit organization. They do hack weeks.
Okay.
They do a hack week every year with teenagers. So it's basically getting teenagers who, well, I won't talk about Wise too much, but if you have a teenager who's interested in technology, go and have a look. And I was going to be a mentor for them. And I thought, if I'm going to mentor kids doing hacking on computers in a limited amount of time, I need to do it myself first. So what I did is I decided to go for a hack weekend organised by Rewired State, which is the for-profit company associated with Young Rewired State, and who do every year they do a Hack the Government Day, where you get to play with government data and do things. So I find myself in a DEFRA office, playing with data about best measure to retrofit to an average to an average 3-bedroom suburban home in the UK. So I did that. We put everything online on GitHub, and Benjamin was happily looking away for a CTO and found the stuff we did. So he contacted all of the people who worked on the hack day who did something in energy efficiency, saying, I've got this cool startup, do you want to work with me? And I was the only one to say yes. So we met up for coffee, realised that actually we got on well together, and I was very interested in the subject. And that's how I started with EnergyDeck in August 2012.
So it was through the hackathon, the hack events, and
completely. So very random, which shows that opportunities come knocking in unexpected ways sometimes.
That's an amazing story. What were the challenges since you joined the company, and what's been the sort of developments since then?
Well, the development since then is that we acquired a third person in the company called Nick, who's now working as a CEO for the company, and the story is really nearly as random as mine, where basically he was working for CBRE, so a big company that does a lot of things in energy efficiency, and was looking for a platform to do his work. And a friend of his suggested EnergyDeck. He registered, logged in, then sent an email saying, "Oh, I really like this. I could use it with my customers." So Benjamin, being the usual jumping on the opportunity, seeing the word CBRE in the email, contacted Nick, and eventually they realized that there was actually a better thing to do than providing EnergyDeck for CBRE. It was for Nick to join us, which he did in August 2013, I think. So since then, we spent a lot of last year trying to get funding, because we got an SEIS round of funding in April 2013. Yes, April 2013. And we were looking for an EIS round, which took us a lot longer than we thought we would.
So what is an EIS round?
I'm the wrong person to ask this question. Basically, you've got. So I may get it completely wrong. The way I understand it is that you've got the British government has different tax rebates for angel investors who invest in early stage companies. So a very early stage round is the SEIS round, which is limited, capped to £150,000, and they get a massive rebate. I don't know how much it is in terms of their taxation when they invest in a company at the ACIS level, and the EIS level is slightly further down the line, and I think it's capped at 500k or something along those lines. My numbers may be completely off, so you'll have to check them. And they get less tax rebate, because it's a company that is a bit further advanced. But one thing we realised when doing the round is when you go for a very early stage round, people will fund your company based on an idea. Fine. what we found ourselves is a year later thinking, oh, we now have customers who pay us, so we've got revenue, it's going to be easier. No, because as soon as you have revenue, the potential investors forget about the idea and look at the finance, and then you start being asked some very hard questions about financing. Which is why it took us a very long time to get this funding. We finally got it end of November, and there was much joy in the office. So what this means is that we now have cash to be able to expand the company. So that's exactly what we're doing. We are hiring. Mm-hmm. So we're hiring for a couple of positions in sales, one junior, one senior. But more importantly, in my mind, is we're hiring developers, front-end, back-end developer. I need someone for system administration and DevOps as well. So if you're in that field and you're interested in a cool company, come and work with us.
We'll definitely add on the links and get people to be involved.
All the news. As you said earlier, we won a number of awards, but more importantly, we that there's Innovate UK.
Sure.
Gives a lot of money to companies, to small companies who want to do innovative things, and especially there was an IoT launchpad call that occurred last year, around the end of last year, and we put in a bid with a friendly company I know very well called OpenTRV.
Okay.
Who do basically is about TRV and TRV, thermostatic radiator valve. So the thing you've got on your radiator is to control the radiator, and it's about making them smart.
They're definitely on the list as a future guest on this show.
Absolutely, you should have them here. So basically, they did all the hard work, but our bid was accepted. So we have a project that we will start in April with them about delivering cheap sensors and cheap data sensors that can be easily fit in buildings. Because one of the biggest issues we have today when we look at the ability to measure the energy that buildings consume is that the hardware is still very expensive from compared to everything else. It is still the biggest cost. So that's one thing we want to address with OpenTRV. Not only is it the biggest cost, but it's also a big source of management effort. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things with the Internet of Things, which in hindsight you can say it's obvious, is that you're going to measure everything. So put sensors everywhere. Mm-hmm. But what that means is that statistically speaking, you've got a lot more, you've got a much higher likelihood that at least one of them will fail. So one of the issues we tend to face is not necessarily, apart from the fact that there's no standard and every single supplier has their own data format, that's fine, we're used to that. There's the fact that very often you tend to have sensors that stop sending you data. So, and the reasons may be weird and wonderful, but it's and that's one of the main things we want to address as well, to at least have the ability to manage a very large number of sensors and understand as quickly as possible when one is failing and why. Because if you've got a large office buildings with 200 sensors in it, okay, 5, 10 fail, fine, you can go and fix them. That's not too, that's annoying, but you've got someone whose job it is to do that. If you're looking at a different use case like social housing, where you have a landlord with, say, 100 different flats and 5 sensors per flat, if you've got 10 sensors failing in 10 different flats, then it's no longer the case of you've got to send one person. It's a case of not only do you have to send the persons round, but you've got to liaise with the tenants to get into the flat, to get the work done and all that sort of thing. So it's very important to be able to manage these properly.
So it's the scaling of the number of sensors, and there must be some sort of systematic issues that can be solved in a...
Yes, in practice, you have... So part of it is detecting that something's happened and then starting to be able to diagnose what happened. I mean, it could be anything. It could be... The most common we find is the battery in the sensor is flat. As simple as that, you've got to replace the battery. So, but if you know within a day of the sensor failing, then you can go and fix it. And if you've lost a day of data, well, that's fine. If you find it after 3 months of winter, you've lost your whole data for your whole winter season, which is a lot more annoying.
Yeah. So that's a bit of the technology challenges that you're facing. Let's talk a bit about the partners that you've got. You've got quite a few users, groups of users that you that are currently on your platform. And
yes, so we've got 2 primary groups of users and then a few more. Mm-hmm. So the 2 big groups of users would be commercial real estate, so people who own office buildings. And the other type of users with whom we work a lot are social housing. Because interestingly, they both have a similar set of problems in the sense that they own a lot of buildings, and all of those buildings are tenanted. So they have tenants in those buildings, and every time they need to do something, they need the agreement of the tenant. So there's a lot of other things we find in energy efficiency is that we know how to make a building energy efficient in theory. Very often nowadays, you have the budget to do things, but very often what is missing is the engagement between the different stakeholders. The landlord, the tenant, the managing agent, they all agree that generally something needs to be done. What this thing is varies. Now, who's going to pay for it and who's going to get the work done varies a lot. So if you're into building, if you want to change the lighting in the building, okay, you can do that yourself, that's fine, you're the tenant, you can do that. If you want to insulate the walls, you need the landlord to be involved. So that's the sort of areas where we find a lot of traction with what we do. And in the commercial real estate space, we find a lot of traction simply in terms of operational efficiency, because companies who own buildings today have to report on their energy use, and typically, if they want to report in their end-of-year accounts on their energy use, they typically have one person spend 3 months with Excel spreadsheet trying to gather the data and make sense of it. So if they've got everything in a platform where they can extract it in a few hours and have the whole job done in a couple of days, it's that much saved.
So there's huge sort of saving in time and potential sort of financial savings from the analysis that comes out and the discussion that goes on. Yes,
but one major thing that we see is just having visibility of the data is a massive help to the people who manage the buildings, and especially having visibility of the data quickly. They don't necessarily need real-time data, but if you are able to see your data updated every day and you see today what you did yesterday, it's a lot more useful than if you sit with a 3-month delay. Because if you, for example, the energy you use today when we had a cold snap last week, or even part of this week, and if you only see your energy use when you get a bill in March, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You can't really act on this. Whereas if I show you today what you did tomorrow, Sorry, no, I don't have a TARDIS yet. I wish I had. If I show you today what you did yesterday,
Coming soon.
then you can take action.
Sure. Yeah, it totally makes sense because, the further back you go, the less you think you could have changed your situation.
Yes, because the only thing you can do is say, well, okay, maybe I can put something in place for next winter. But that's
another few months again.
That's another 9 months to wait to see the benefits of it. Whereas if you get your day to day and you can immediately do something today and then tomorrow you use less energy than you used yesterday, and it gives you quick feedback. So you can see immediately, I did that yesterday, did it work? Yes, no.
That totally makes sense. And there's also a really interesting thing that I've noticed is that the sort of community sort of benchmarking, like sort of sharing of information.
Yes. So one of the things we have in the system is that all the energy data we get in the system is anonymized and used to produce benchmarks. The reason why we're doing this is that you have energy benchmark in the UK, but they are old, 20 years old, the CPC benchmark. And buildings have evolved since then. The technology has evolved. So today, nobody really knows whether you're good or bad compared to your peers. So you can get an EPC and it tells you whether you're A, B, C, D or whatever. But do you know how many, on average, what rating the average UK property gets? The other problem you have is that although you can do benchmarks for residential properties, because they tend to be reasonably homogeneous in the way they operate, in the way they build, this is not true at all of commercial properties. One office building will behave very differently from the next one. So one of the things we're looking at is at being able to do smarter benchmark than what exists on the market today, and being able to recognize not just what the building is like, but what is it used for. So, for example, you could have in the same building, you could have on one floor a travel agent, on the next floor an investment bank. They will have a very different energy use, because the investment bank, every single trader might have 3 screens on their desk and all that sort of things. Well, maybe 6 or 7 actually. Or in a lot of buildings today, I mean, if you go to, let's take an iconic example. If you go to the Shard, on the ground floor, you've got some retail space, you've got some restaurants on the floors 31, 32, 33, and they will have a different footprint than the other floors. So it's having the ability to model this and say, okay, part of my building is primarily an office building, but part of it is retail, part of it is restaurants. So can I then benchmark this independently? So can I produce a benchmark just for the office part? And is it comparable to other office buildings? Or can I start doing smarter things like benchmark retail stores? And do I have a difference between retail stores that are part of a bigger building, or retail stores that are standalone in the high street, or retail stores that are part of a mall? So it's the sort of things we're doing. The other thing we're doing in terms of community, well, there's 2 other things we're doing in terms of community. One of them is we have the ability to track retrofit projects and what you do to make your building better. And the results of those projects are also anonymized and shared back with the rest of the community.
So the best practice gets
yes.
shared.
What we want to get to is a position where the best practice starts becoming more visible. Because one of the issues you tend to have is that whenever you want to improve the efficiency of a building, the first question is where should I start? And you've got a lot of companies that will give you advice on this. If we're talking about domestic buildings, you have the Green Deal, you have all sorts of things. These recommendations are not always very accurate, and because we don't have the data to validate that those changes actually work. Some of them we know work well, like loft insulation, but others that are more unusual, we don't necessarily know. So the idea here is that we can build a database of projects that have been validated, where the savings have been validated, and start bringing the better solutions to the fore, knowing as well that what you want to look at. So there won't be any universal best solutions, but what there will be is solutions that work for a particular type of buildings. So you should be able to say, that's the type of building I have. What is my peer group of buildings? So, which would be buildings with a similar fabric in a similar area, with a similar in a similar climatic area. What did they do? What worked for them? Can I do the same?
So you get much more tailored sort of actions that you can take.
Yes, that's the idea. To have recommendations for your buildings that are a lot more tailored to what your building actually looks like, what actually is.
Based on real sort of evidence.
Based on real data and based on evidence, because we have the energy used before and after a project, so we can validate what savings you've had on those. The latest community aspect that we got in the system is we have the ability to regroup users in community groups. So, for example, if you've got your house on the site and you want to bring your friends with their own buildings and put it in a community group to see to enable you to see what others are doing and how well you compare to each other, that's a very powerful tool.
Cool. So that's the sort of almost like gamifying it to make actual real behavior change to some extent.
A little bit, yes, because it's a way to say, well, the guys next door are doing a lot better than I do. Why is that? What have they done? And we've done that very successfully in Bristol with the West of England Carbon Challenge, where the majority of the businesses that took part in that challenge have their data on EnergyDeck and are able to see how they do and how they compare to their peers.
Question about the future vision of EnergyDeck. So if today is January 2020, looking back in the last 5 years, what would you say would be the highlights or the successes that EnergyDeck have achieved?
Oh, by 2020 we'll have taken over the world.
Of course.
Seriously, I think where we would want to be is to be. The energy efficiency market it's a massive space. There is space for a lot of companies, but where we would like to be is in a position where we are the go-to platform for people trying to solve the energy efficiency problem. And then typically you've got, if you look at energy efficiency, it's always the same questions. It's what do I need to do? Who's going to pay for it? And how do I do it? So the people answering those questions tend to be three different types of organizations. So the first one would be your energy consultants who are going to look at your building, understand how it behaves and gives you a recommendation. So that's, if I use the Green Deal term, that would be the Green Deal assessor. People who finance would be the bank, whatever, and people who actually implement the change would be your service provider, your retrofit provider. So we would like to be the go-to platform for those people, so that they can use this as the tool they would use. So it would be the plumbing for those people, if you want.
Sure.
So they would use the platform as the tool to do this business, to assess the building, provide recommendations. For the people financing, possibly finding the interesting project that they want to finance, and for the people doing the job, actually giving them the ability to record the basic information about the projects, and also to validate those, so they can demonstrate that the savings they've achieved are in line with what they planned, and close the loop, yeah. Basically. That's where we would like to go. That's probably not where we will end up, because as ever things change. Sure. In terms of challenges over the next 5 years, it will be the typical challenge for a startup, which is how do you scale? Mm-hmm. And it's not just a technical question, it's a question of, it's a business question. How do you get more customers? And which is also why we want to go that way, because we find that working with partner companies who can make use of that tool to progress their business is actually the better way for us to scale from a business perspective. And then there will be all the scaling issues that will fall on me, like how do I scale technically, and deal with millions and millions of data points.
Cool, I like that co-creating a sort of product that serves both more than one party. And if you got any sort of advice or any last words for people who are part of the Cleanweb community who are interested in this particular area?
Any word of advice?
Yeah, because I'm sure that people who are listening would be, are interested in starting their own company or facing similar challenges as a Cleanweb company.
I would say it's the same as every startup. You've got to keep going at it. And if you look around today, the startups that make the headlines today, a lot of them are 10, 15 years old. It's the whole thing is that the people who built those businesses didn't give up. And Cleanweb, at the end of the day, is an area that is full of opportunities, because there's a massive amount of work to do in Cleanweb. Just in terms of energy efficiency, some smart people, I can't remember who they are, released a report last year on the American market, but the European market is very much the same, saying that the energy that could be saved through energy efficiency in America could be equivalent to a completely new form of energy. In terms of the amount of what you'd call negative megawatts, the amount of energy that could be saved is equivalent to completely new type of energy. So there is a massive amount of opportunity there. There is a massive amount of work to do. But the problem with Cleanweb, which is not exclusive to Cleanweb, but is that you deal with buildings, you deal with physical things, and things take a long time to happen. A building is a structure that will stand for hundreds of years, possibly. So anybody dealing with the built environment has to be in for the long haul. And that's one of the issues we found in our funding, is that a lot of angel investors and VCs are looking at an exit within 3 years, 5 years.
The quick wins.
It doesn't work when you talk about buildings. So one of the areas that we're missing in industry today is people who can finance Cleanweb and who are able to take a slightly longer term view. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a 100-year view. I mean, it could be 10 years instead of 5. because everything takes longer, and I think that's typical of these new type of startups, which actually I was in Helsinki at the end of last year for a seminar on the subject, and we ended up calling them smartups, which is those startups that are no longer purely online, that start online but deal with the physical world. Mm-hmm. So it can be companies like EnergyDeck, but it can also be the companies like Uber or other types of companies that deal with things that mix the online and physical world. And in that sort of environment, things take longer. Things take longer to happen. Sales take longer. Everything takes longer. So companies in that space are unlikely to grow, to have the meteoric rises that you've seen in purely online startups, because part of their work is physical.
Sure.
But on the other hand, the Cleanweb companies and people who deal in the IoT space are trying to solve much more complex problems. If you look at the area of these companies that work in this space, just the thing about the buildings, transport, food, those three things themselves represent the majority of the outcome of any family, I would say on Earth, but certainly in Europe. Most families in Europe will spend a lot of their disposable income will go on housing, transport, and food. But those are all physical things. So when you start doing work in that space and displacing the incumbents in that space, and the things will take a lot longer, but the potential for returns is absolutely massive, because it is a very big part of what everybody does.
I think we have to wrap up now. Thank you very much, Bruno. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and we'll connect with you here on this channel. If you haven't subscribe, and we'll be publishing more videos like this. Thank you very much.
The Cleanweb Conversations Podcast.